Hey everybody, this is lesson 71, graphing linear inequalities and systems of graphing. I just realized I need a ruler. I don't know if I have one in here, but I will look and I'll find something. I'm sure it'll be okay. Use like this pad if I have to. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do, and the reason I'm using my camera today is because I'm graphing and I want to actually show you the graph, and it's so important for you to see the visual. So first thing I'm going to do is graph this inequality. Obviously it needs to be in y equals mx plus b form. So I'm going to isolate my y and move a few things over. I'm going to move the 6 over first. Again, really important to be really present when you're writing your answer and not write an equal sign by accident. It's a very common mistake. Everybody gets divided by 2 to get y by itself. And then when I divide 4 divided by 2, I get 2x, and 6 divided by 2, I get 3. And there we have it. So I'm still going to write my slope and my y-intercept. And that's what I'm going to start with. Remember, we begin with the y-intercept. So y on the y-axis at -3. And then my slope tells me to move it up 2 and to the right 1, up 2 and to the right 1. So same thing I would normally do for when I was graphing an equation, a linear equation. So there we go. But now we have some interesting things. First thing I notice is this is a greater than sign, which means I'm going to have more than just the answers on this line. In fact, the answers on this line are not even going to be the right answers. So some things you notice here is I'm going to have to use a dotted line because the answers on the line are not equal. And then I have to shade, that's a greater than sign, shade above, or shade up. So I'm going to use this pad of paper right here as like a ruler. I'm going to make my line, but I'm not going to make it a straight line, I'm going to make it a dotted line. So watch, I'm just going to like sketch it. You see the dots, right? So it's dotted line. If you by accident draw a straight line, you want it to be a dotted line, you can always just draw an arrow and write dotted. Still going to have arrowheads. Notice it's a dotted line, right? There's some good spaces in between. And then shade above. So I'm going to take my pen and I'm just going to draw, I draw just nice straight lines that are perpendicular. I like to go perpendicular from the line straight, to make a right angle. And there you go. And then I'm going to label my line with the original equation. 2y plus 6 is greater than 4x. And there we go. Easy peas. Pause the video if you need to copy any of this down. You should be sure you're using a ruler on your graph, just like I did, or a straight edge. Any flat piece of paper will work really well. Okay, moving on to the bottom. So let's talk about how this is going to look like on your calculator. It's pretty cool. So you should definitely have a calculator out. Boop, boop, boop. So first off, it always has to be in y equals form if I'm going to put it in my calculator. I'm still going to go to the y equals button, except there's going to be a couple different changes. So I'm going to start by typing my equation into my y equals. I notice there's a fraction, so I use my alpha y equals button first. Alright, so now this, if I just hit graph, will just give me a line. But I know when I have an inequality, I have usually some shading involved. So back to y equals. I'm going to arrow over to the left side of my screen. Notice my cursor is blinking on this. And when I hit enter, it's going to change. So now it just changed from a skinny line to a thick line. I don't want that. I want some shading. So this is going to be, just so we remember, right, this symbol is going to be a solid line, not a dashed line or a dotted line. It's a solid line. And we're going to shade down, and the reason we're shading down is because it's a less than sign. So watch again. So I'm still over here. I hit enter once and I got this bold line. I'm going to hit enter again, and notice it's shading up, right? So it's a whole triangle shading up. I want it to shade down, so I'm going to hit enter one more time. Notice my arrow is pointing down, so I'm going to arrow to the right just to get out of that. And again, right? So you notice, right? Arrow shading down. There you go. So now watch what happens when I hit graph. Whoa. Right? it's going to show exactly where you have to shade. So we're going to just sketch that graph really quickly. Really important to make sure, y-intercept is about where it should be. This is going to be, because since it's just a sketch, I'm not going to use a ruler. So there's my line, and again, you could draw the lines the way they have it. I like to draw them like straight out, like they're coming right from the line. And that's it. That's my sketch of my graph. And again, I'm going to label it. And that's what my graph should look like. Again, a solid line and shading. All right. Pause the video to copy any of this down, and I'll see you back in class to do more practice.